The alarm clock buzzed at 4 in the morning, cutting through the silence of the small apartment. Ben rubbed his tired eyes and quietly rolled out of bed, careful not to wake his daughter Lucy, who was sleeping in the bedroom next door. He had learned to move like a ghost in the early morning hours, knowing that Lucy needed every minute of sleep she could get. Ben walked to the kitchen and made himself a cup of instant coffee. The bitter taste had become his daily companion over the past 2 years. He looked at the calendar hanging on the refrigerator door. Rent was due in 3 days, and he was still $200 short. The electric bill sat unopened on the counter because he already knew what it would say. Everything was past due. He pulled on his janitor uniform and grabbed his lunch bag from the counter. Inside was a peanut butter sandwich and an apple. It would have to last him until dinner. Ben had long ago given up eating breakfast so that Lucy could have cereal in the morning. The hospital where Ben worked was 20 minutes away by bus. He walked through the empty hallways, pushing his cleaning cart from room to room. The familiar smell of disinfectant filled his nose as he mopped floors and emptied trash cans. Other people were sleeping while he worked to make their world cleaner. Dr. Martinez found Ben during his break in the supply closet. "Ben, I need to talk to you about Lucy," the doctor said softly. Ben's heart stopped. Dr. Martinez had been Lucy's heart doctor for 6 months now, ever since they discovered her condition. The look on his face told Ben everything he needed to know. "How bad is it?" Ben asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "The tests show that her heart is getting weaker. We need to do the surgery within the next month, or we could lose her." Ben felt the world spinning around him. He grabbed the edge of a shelf to steady himself. "How much?" he asked. "The total cost will be around $300,000. Your insurance will cover about 60%, but that still leaves you responsible for $120,000. $120,000. Ben made $12 an hour as a janitor and another $8 an hour driving for a food delivery service on weekends. Even if he worked every single day for the next 5 years, he would never have that kind of money. "Doctor, please. There has to be another way." Dr. Martinez put his hand on Ben's shoulder. "I wish there was. I've already talked to the billing department about payment plans, but they need at least $50,000 up front before they can schedule the surgery." After Dr. Martinez left, Ben sat alone in the supply closet for 10 minutes. He thought about his wife Sarah, who had died in a car accident when Lucy was 4 years old. Sarah had always been the strong one, the one who figured out how to solve their problems. She would know what to do now. Ben finished his shift at the hospital and caught the bus to his second job at Tony's Pizza. He delivered food until midnight, driving his old car through the city streets and hoping it would not break down. Every dollar in tips went into a jar at home labeled Lucy's Heart Fund. After 6 months, the jar had $437 in it. When Ben got home that night, Lucy was asleep. He sat beside her bed and watched her small chest rise and fall with each breath. She looked so peaceful when she was sleeping, not like the tired little girl who could barely walk up the stairs during the day. Lucy had been born with a heart defect that doctors missed until she was 5. By then, the damage was serious. She could not run and play like other children. Simple activities like walking to school left her breathless and exhausted. Ben had watched his happy, energetic daughter slowly become quiet and weak. The next morning, Ben made Lucy breakfast and helped her get ready for school. Mrs. Chen, their neighbor, picked Lucy up and drove her to school every day. Ben could not afford to miss work, and the school bus stop was too far for Lucy to walk. "Daddy, my chest hurts again," Lucy said as she ate her cereal. Ben knelt down beside her chair and held her small hand. "I know, sweetheart. The doctors are going to fix it soon." "Will it hurt when they fix it?" "No, baby. You'll be asleep, and when you wake up, your heart will be strong like a superhero." Lucy smiled for the first time in days. "Will I be able to run fast like the other kids?" "You'll be able to run faster than anyone." After Lucy left for school, Ben sat at the kitchen table with a notebook and calculator. He had been keeping track of every possible way to raise money. He had already sold Sarah's jewelry, his tools, and their second car. He had applied for every loan he could find, but his credit was terrible and he had no collateral. Ben had started a fundraising page online, but it had only raised $800 in 3 months. He had asked his church for help, and they had given him $500 from their emergency fund. It was not nearly enough. That afternoon, Ben found himself walking through the children's ward of the hospital where he worked. He often came here during his breaks to feel closer to Lucy. He watched parents sitting beside their sick children and wondered if they were facing the same impossible choices. In room 312, Ben saw a mother sleeping in a chair beside her teenage son's bed. The boy had machines attached to his arms and was covered in white bandages. A newspaper was folded on the bedside table with the headline, "Local Teen Saved by Kidney Transplant." Ben picked up the newspaper and read the article. The boy's father had donated his kidney to save his son's life. At the bottom of the article was a small advertisement that made Ben's blood run cold. Need money fast? Healthy organ donors wanted. Up to $200,000 for qualified candidates. Ben stared at the advertisement for a long time. He thought about Lucy lying in a hospital bed, getting weaker every day while he worked 2 jobs that would never pay enough to save her. He thought about Sarah and what she would want him to do. He thought about what kind of father puts his child's life before his own safety. That night, Ben called the number in the advertisement. A man with a deep voice answered the phone. "You interested in making some serious money?" the man asked. "I need to know if this is real," Ben said. "Meet me tomorrow at the Riverside Medical Center on 5th Street. Come alone, and bring your medical records." Ben hung up the phone and stared at the wall. He knew that selling organs was illegal and dangerous. He knew that he could die or become disabled. But Lucy was dying, and he was her only hope. The next day, Ben went to work as usual. He cleaned floors and emptied trash cans while thinking about the meeting later that afternoon. During his lunch break, he visited Lucy at school. She was sitting alone in the nurse's office because she had become too tired to stay in class. "Daddy, why do I get so tired all the time?" Lucy asked as Ben held her in his arms. "Your heart is working very hard right now, but we're going to help it get better. Mrs. Chen says that hearts are like engines in cars. Is my engine broken?" Ben felt tears in his eyes. "Just a little bit, sweetheart. But we're going to get the best mechanic in the world to fix it." That afternoon, Ben stood outside the Riverside Medical Center holding a folder with his medical records. The building looked old and empty. Most of the windows were covered with newspaper, and weeds grew through cracks in the parking lot. Ben walked inside and found the man from the phone call sitting behind a metal desk in a small room. The man was wearing an expensive suit but had scars on his hands and face. "You Ben?" the man asked without looking up from his paperwork. "Yes. You sure you want to do this? Once we start the process, there's no backing out." Ben thought about Lucy's tired eyes and labored breathing. He thought about the number on Dr. Martinez's estimate, $120,000. "How much money?" Ben asked. "For a healthy kidney from someone your age, we can pay $150,000. Cash. No questions asked." It was more than enough to pay for Lucy's surgery and cover their bills for the next year. Ben's hands shook as he reached for the pen on the desk. "I need some medical tests first," the man said. "Blood work, scans, that kind of thing. If everything checks out, we can do the procedure next week." Ben signed his name on the papers without reading them. He was thinking about Lucy running and playing like a normal child. He was thinking about her growing up healthy and strong. He was thinking about keeping the promise he had made to Sarah to always protect their daughter. The man handed Ben a business card with an address written on the back. "Be at this address tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Bring these papers and don't tell anyone where you're going." Ben walked out of the building and sat in his car in the parking lot. He looked at the papers in his hands and realized what he had just agreed to do. In 1 week, he would be lying on an operating table while strangers removed one of his kidneys to sell to the highest bidder. Ben drove home and made dinner for Lucy. She could only eat a few bites before becoming too tired to continue. After she went to bed, Ben sat alone in the kitchen holding the papers from the medical center. He knew he was taking a terrible risk, but Lucy was running out of time. That night, Ben called Dr. Martinez and scheduled Lucy's surgery for 2 weeks from today. He told the doctor that he would have the money by then. Dr. Martinez sounded surprised but happy. "Ben, I don't know how you managed this, but Lucy is going to have her chance now." After hanging up the phone, Ben went to Lucy's bedroom door and watched her sleep. Tomorrow he would begin the process that would either save his daughter's life or cost him his own. Either way, Lucy would have the surgery she needed. "I love you, baby girl," Ben whispered into the darkness. "Daddy's going to make sure you get better." Ben closed Lucy's door and walked to his own room. In 12 hours, he would begin selling his kidney to save his daughter's life. There was no other choice left to make. Ben arrived at the address written on the business card exactly at 6 o'clock the next evening. The building was in a part of town he had never visited before, surrounded by empty warehouses and broken streetlights. His hands were sweating as he walked through the front door. Inside, the waiting room looked like a normal medical office, but something felt wrong. The magazines on the table were old and torn. The chairs had stains on them. A woman behind the reception desk looked up when Ben entered. "You here for the appointment?" she asked without smiling. "Yes." "Ben Williams. Room 3. Down the hall." Ben walked down a narrow hallway lined with doors. Most of them were closed, but he could hear voices coming from behind some of them. In room 3, a man in a white coat was waiting with a clipboard. "Mr. Williams, I need to ask you some questions before we proceed," the man said. He did not introduce himself or shake Ben's hand. For the next hour, Ben answered questions about his medical history and signed more papers. The man drew blood samples and took his blood pressure. Everything felt rushed and impersonal, like Ben was a piece of meat being inspected for quality. "We'll have your test results in 2 days," the man said when they finished. "If everything looks good, we can schedule the procedure for next week." Ben left the building feeling sick to his stomach. He drove to the hospital where he worked and sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, trying to calm down. He kept telling himself that he was doing this for Lucy, but the fear was growing stronger every hour. The next day was Saturday, so Ben spent the morning with Lucy. They walked slowly to the park near their apartment, stopping 3 times so Lucy could catch her breath. Other children were running and playing on the playground while Lucy sat on a bench, too tired to join them. "Daddy, will I always be sick?" Lucy asked, watching a group of kids play tag. "No, sweetheart. Remember what I told you? The doctors are going to fix your heart very soon. Can we go home now? I'm tired." Ben's heart broke every time Lucy said those words. She was only 6 years old, but she was always tired. Children her age should be full of energy, not exhausted from walking 2 blocks. That afternoon, Ben got a call from the medical center. "Mr. Williams, your tests came back perfect. Can you be here Monday at 10 in the morning for the procedure?" Monday. In 3 days, Ben would be having surgery to remove his kidney. His hand started shaking again. "Yes, I'll be there. Remember, no food or water after midnight on Sunday. And don't tell anyone where you're going." Ben hung up the phone and looked at Lucy, who was coloring in her bedroom. In 3 days, he would have the money to save her life. That was all that mattered. Sunday evening came faster than Ben expected. He had spent the weekend playing quiet games with Lucy and trying to act normal. Mrs. Chen had agreed to watch Lucy on Monday morning, thinking that Ben had a job interview. Ben could not eat dinner Sunday night. His stomach was too nervous. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about the surgery that would happen in 12 hours. He had read online about the risks of kidney removal, and they terrified him. But the image of Lucy getting weaker every day terrified him more. At 9:30 Monday morning, Ben kissed Lucy goodbye and told her he would see her that afternoon. "Good luck with your job interview, Daddy," Lucy said, hugging him tightly. "Thank you, baby. I love you." Ben drove to the medical center with his hands gripping the steering wheel. The parking lot was more crowded than usual, with several expensive cars parked near the entrance. Ben wondered if other people were here to sell their organs, or if they were the rich customers buying them. Inside the building, Ben was directed to a different room than before. This one looked more like a real medical office, with clean equipment and bright lights. A nurse handed him a hospital gown and told him to change. "The doctor will be with you in a few minutes," she said. Ben sat on the examination table in his hospital gown, feeling more scared than he had ever felt in his life. He thought about Sarah and wondered what she would say if she could see him now. He thought about Lucy and hoped she would understand someday why he had made this choice. The door opened, and a woman in an expensive business suit walked in. She was tall with dark hair and looked like she belonged in a boardroom, not a shady medical facility. Behind her was the man in the white coat who had examined Ben 2 days earlier. "Excuse me," the woman said to the man. "I need to speak with you outside." Ben could hear them talking in the hallway, but he could not make out the words. The woman's voice sounded angry. After a few minutes, she came back into the room alone. "Mr. Williams, my name is Nina Walsh. I need to ask you something very important. Are you here to sell your kidney?" Ben did not know what to say. The woman did not look like she worked at this place. Her clothes were too expensive, and she looked too clean and professional. "I don't know who you are," Ben said carefully. "I'm here visiting someone, and I overheard your conversation with the staff. Mr. Williams, do you understand how dangerous this is? This place is not a real medical facility. These people are criminals." Ben's heart started pounding. "What do you mean?" Nina sat down in the chair across from him. "I mean that if you go through with this surgery, you could die. And even if you survive, they might not pay you the money they promised. These are not doctors, Mr. Williams. They're criminals who prey on desperate people." "You don't understand," Ben said, his voice rising. "My daughter is dying. She needs heart surgery, and I don't have the money. This is the only way. Tell me about your daughter." Ben did not know why, but something about Nina's voice made him trust her. Maybe it was because she was the first person in months who had asked about Lucy instead of just talking about money and medical bills. "Her name is Lucy. She's 6 years old, and she has a heart defect. The surgery costs $120,000, and I don't have it. She's getting sicker every day, and I'm running out of time." Nina listened carefully as Ben told her about Lucy's condition, about Sarah's death, and about his 2 jobs that would never pay enough to save his daughter. When he finished talking, Nina was quiet for a long time. "Mr. Williams, I understand why you're here. But this is not the answer. It's the only answer I have." Nina stood up and walked to the window. "What if I told you there was another way? A way that would give Lucy the surgery she needs without putting your life at risk? I would say you're crazy. Nobody gives away that kind of money for nothing." Nina turned around and looked directly at Ben. "I run a pharmaceutical company that develops treatments for heart conditions like Lucy's. We have an experimental program that could help her, but there are eligibility requirements." Ben felt a spark of hope, but he tried not to get too excited. He had been disappointed too many times before. "What kind of requirements?" "The patient needs to have a stable family structure with good insurance coverage. The treatment is still in trials, so it's not available to everyone. I don't have good insurance. And it's just me and Lucy." Nina was quiet again, thinking. Ben could see that she was struggling with some kind of decision. Mr. Williams, what I'm about to suggest will sound crazy, but I want you to think about it carefully before you answer. Okay. What if we got married? Ben stared at her. What? A marriage of convenience. If Lucy becomes my legal stepdaughter, she would qualify for my medical insurance and the experimental treatment program. It would be a business arrangement, nothing more. Ben could not believe what he was hearing. Lady, I don't even know you. Why would you do something like that for strangers? Nina sat back down and looked at her hands. Because 5 years ago, I watched my father die from the same heart condition that Lucy has. I was already successful then, but I couldn't save him because the treatment didn't exist yet. I've spent the last 5 years developing therapies for children like Lucy, but the system makes it almost impossible for families like yours to access them. This is insane. Maybe. But it would work. Lucy would get the treatment she needs, and you wouldn't have to risk your life selling organs to criminals. Ben looked around the room and thought about what he was about to do. Nina was right, this place felt wrong, and the people here scared him. But her idea seemed just as risky in a different way. What would you get out of it? Ben asked. Honestly? My board of directors has been pressuring me to settle down and start a family. They think it would make me more relatable to investors and consumers. A ready-made family would solve that problem. Ben stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see his old car in the parking lot. Lucy was at home with Mrs. Chen, probably taking a nap because she was too tired to play. Dr. Martinez had said she only had weeks left without surgery. If we did this, Ben said slowly, it would just be on paper, right? We wouldn't have to actually live together or anything like that. We would have to make it look real for the insurance company and my board. That would mean living in the same house and appearing together in public sometimes. But yes, it would just be a business arrangement. Ben thought about Lucy running and playing like a normal child. He thought about her growing up healthy and strong. He thought about not having to sell his kidney to strangers in a back-alley medical facility. How do I know you're telling the truth about who you are and what you can do? Nina pulled out her phone and showed Ben several news articles about her company and the research they were doing. She showed him her business card and her driver's license. Everything checked out. Mr. Williams, I know this sounds impossible, but I'm offering you a real solution. Lucy can get the treatment she needs, and you can keep both of your kidneys. Ben looked at Nina for a long time. She seemed sincere, but he had learned not to trust good things that seemed too easy. If I say yes, how quickly can this happen? We can go to the courthouse this afternoon and get married today. I can have Lucy enrolled in my insurance by tomorrow, and the treatment can start within a week. Ben thought about Lucy waiting at home, getting weaker every day. He thought about the criminals in this building who wanted to cut him open for money. He thought about Nina's offer, which seemed too good to be true but might be Lucy's only real chance. Okay, Ben said finally. Let's do it. Nina smiled for the first time since entering the room. Let's go get your daughter the help she needs. They left the medical facility together, and Ben never looked back. 2 hours later, Ben and Nina stood in the courthouse holding a marriage certificate. Ben kept staring at the paper, unable to believe what had just happened. Nina looked calm and professional, like she had just signed a business contract instead of marrying a complete stranger. We need to pick up Lucy and get her to my doctor immediately, Nina said as they walked to the parking lot. The sooner we start treatment, the better her chances. Ben followed Nina to her car, a black sedan that probably cost more than he made in 3 years. The leather seats were soft and clean, nothing like his old car with the broken air conditioning and torn upholstery. Are you sure about this? Ben asked as Nina started the engine. You don't really know anything about us. I know that you were willing to sell your kidney to save your daughter's life. That tells me everything I need to know about what kind of father you are. They drove to Ben's apartment in silence. Ben felt nervous about Nina seeing where they lived. Their building was old and needed repairs. The hallway smelled like cooking grease and cigarette smoke. Their apartment was clean but small, with second-hand furniture and Lucy's drawings taped to the refrigerator. Mrs. Chen answered the door when they knocked. Lucy was sitting at the kitchen table coloring a picture of a rainbow. "Daddy!" Lucy jumped up and ran to Ben, but she only made it a few steps before stopping to catch her breath. "Hey, baby girl," Ben said, picking her up carefully. "I want you to meet someone very special." Nina knelt down so she was at Lucy's eye level. "Hi, Lucy. My name is Nina. Your daddy and I just got married, which means I'm your new stepmommy." Lucy looked confused. "But Daddy, you said you had a job interview today." Ben felt terrible about lying to his daughter. "I know, sweetheart. But sometimes grown-ups have surprises. Nina is going to help make your heart better." "Really?" Lucy's eyes got wide with hope. "Really," Nina said gently. "I know some very good doctors who specialize in fixing hearts just like yours." Lucy looked back and forth between Ben and Nina. "Does this mean we're going to be a real family?" "Yes," Nina said before Ben could answer. "We're going to be a family, and we're going to take very good care of you." Mrs. Chen helped them pack Lucy's clothes and favorite toys. Within an hour, they were driving to Nina's house on the other side of town. Ben had never been in a neighborhood like this before. The houses were huge with perfect lawns and tall gates. Nina's house was bigger than Ben had imagined. The front yard had flowers and trees arranged like a park. Inside, everything was white and clean and expensive looking. Ben felt like he and Lucy did not belong in a place like this. "Lucy, would you like to see your new bedroom?" Nina asked. She led them upstairs to a room that was bigger than Ben's entire apartment. There was a bed with a pink comforter, shelves full of books, and toys that looked like they had never been played with. "This is all mine?" Lucy asked in amazement. "All yours," Nina said. "And tomorrow we're going to see Dr. Peterson, who is going to help your heart get strong." That night, after Lucy was asleep in her new room, Ben and Nina sat in the living room trying to figure out how their arrangement would work. "I have a guest bedroom where you can stay," Nina said. "We'll need to share some meals and spend time together so it looks like a real marriage to the insurance company and my employees." "I don't know how to act around rich people," Ben admitted. "I work as a janitor. I don't belong in a place like this." "You belong wherever Lucy needs you to be," Nina said firmly. "And right now, she needs you to be here with me so we can help her get better." The next morning, Nina took them to see Dr. Peterson at the city's best children's hospital. The doctor examined Lucy carefully and reviewed all of her medical records. "The experimental treatment we've developed has shown excellent results in children with Lucy's condition," Dr. Peterson explained. "We'll need to do the procedure in 2 phases over the next month, but I'm optimistic about her chances." Lucy held Ben's hand tightly during the examination. "Will it hurt, Daddy?" "A little bit, sweetheart. But it will help your heart get strong so you can run and play like other kids." Over the next 2 weeks, Lucy started the first phase of treatment. She had to stay in the hospital for several days, and Ben never left her side. Nina came to visit every day after work, bringing books and small gifts for Lucy. Ben watched Nina with his daughter and was surprised by how gentle and caring she was. Nina read stories to Lucy, helped her with puzzles, and answered endless questions about everything from why the sky was blue to how airplanes stayed in the air. "Nina knows everything," Lucy told Ben one evening. "She's the smartest mommy in the whole world." "She's not really your mommy," Ben said automatically. "This is just temporary, remember?" Lucy looked sad. "But I like her. She makes me feel safe." Ben realized that he liked Nina too. She was nothing like what he had expected from a rich businesswoman. She was kind and funny and seemed to genuinely care about Lucy's happiness. Sometimes Ben caught himself watching Nina when she was reading to Lucy or helping her with her homework, and he felt something he had not felt since Sarah died. The treatment was working. After 2 weeks, Lucy had more energy than she had shown in months. She could walk upstairs without getting tired, and her skin had more color. Dr. Peterson was pleased with her progress. The second phase of treatment should complete the repair, he told them. Lucy should make a full recovery. But just as things were going well, Nina came home from work one evening looking upset. "What's wrong?" Ben asked. "My board of directors called an emergency meeting for tomorrow. Someone told them about our marriage, and they're asking questions." "What kind of questions?" "They think I got married too quickly and that it looks suspicious. Some of them are saying I'm not fit to run the company anymore." Ben felt panic rising in his chest. "What does that mean for Lucy's treatment?" "Dr. Peterson says she can finish the treatment regardless, but if I lose my job, Lucy won't have insurance coverage for follow-up care." That night, Ben lay in bed thinking about everything Nina had done for them. She had given Lucy the chance to live a normal life, and now she might lose her career because of it. The next morning, Ben put on his best clothes and went with Nina to her office. The board meeting was in a conference room on the 20th floor of a glass building downtown. 12 people in expensive suits sat around a huge table, and they all looked at Ben like he was something unpleasant they had found on their shoes. "Mrs. Walsh," the chairman said coldly, "we're concerned about this sudden marriage of yours. You've always said you were too busy for a personal life, and now you're married to a janitor with a sick child. It looks like you're using company resources for personal charity work." "My personal life has nothing to do with my ability to run this company," Nina replied. "Doesn't it? You've been distracted lately. Your focus seems to be on this experimental children's program instead of our profitable adult medications. Our shareholders are concerned." Ben listened to them criticize Nina for helping Lucy and felt anger building inside him. These people had no idea what Nina had sacrificed to help a stranger's child. "Excuse me," Ben said, standing up. "I'd like to say something." The board members looked surprised that he had spoken. "You people think you know Nina, but you don't know anything about her. 3 weeks ago, I was about to make the biggest mistake of my life because I was desperate to save my daughter. Nina stopped me and offered a solution that saved both my daughter's life and my own." Ben looked around the table at their faces. Nina could have walked away and minded her own business. Instead, she chose to help strangers because she has something that money can't buy, a good heart. If you fire her, you're not just losing a great businesswoman. You're losing someone who actually cares about using your company to help people instead of just making money. The room was quiet when Ben finished speaking. Nina looked at him with surprise and gratitude. Furthermore, Ben continued, "Our marriage might have started as a business arrangement, but I can tell you that Nina Walsh is the most honest, caring person I've ever met. Lucy and I are lucky to have her in our lives." After the meeting, Nina and Ben walked to the hospital to check on Lucy, who was having her final treatment procedure. "Thank you for what you said in there," Nina said as they rode the elevator to the children's ward. "I meant every word of it. Ben, can I tell you something? This arrangement was supposed to be just business, but somewhere along the way, it became real for me. I care about you and Lucy more than I expected to." Ben stopped walking and looked at Nina. "It became real for me too. I think I'm falling in love with you." "I think I'm falling in love with you too." They found Lucy in her hospital room, sitting up in bed and looking stronger than she had in months. "Daddy." "Nina. Dr. Peterson says my heart is fixed. I can go home tomorrow and start running and playing just like other kids." Ben hugged Lucy carefully, trying not to cry with relief. "That's wonderful, baby girl. Nina, are you really going to be my mommy forever?" Lucy asked. Nina looked at Ben, and he nodded with a smile. "Yes, Lucy. Forever and always." 6 months later, Ben, Nina, and Lucy stood in the same courthouse where Ben and Nina had gotten married the first time. But this wedding was different. Lucy was the flower girl, wearing a pink dress and carrying a basket of roses. Ben wore a new suit that actually fit him, and Nina wore a simple white dress. This time, when they exchanged vows, they meant every word. "I promise to love and protect both you and Lucy for the rest of my life," Ben said. "I promise to be the family you've both been looking for," Nina replied. After the ceremony, they had a small party in Nina's backyard. Lucy ran around with some new friends from her school, her laughter filling the air. Her heart was completely healed, and she had more energy than Ben had ever seen. "She's perfect," Nina said, watching Lucy play. "We're perfect," Ben corrected, putting his arm around his wife. Nina had kept her job after the board meeting, and her experimental children's program had become one of the company's most successful initiatives. Ben had gone back to school and was studying to become a medical technician so he could help other families like his own. "Daddy. Nina. Come play with us," Lucy called from the playground they had built in the backyard. Ben and Nina ran to join their daughter, and for the first time in years, Ben felt like his life was complete. They had started as strangers brought together by desperation, but they had become a real family built on love, trust, and the shared commitment to take care of each other. Lucy was healthy, Ben had found love again, and Nina had discovered that the best things in life could not be bought with money. They had all saved each other,